Hey everybody.
Uh, Hello everyone. So hope you all are doing well. Today we have a session on Microsoft Azure Function with Vishwas Narayan, and I would say like if your friends are there, just call them, and it will be like super awesome. So Vishwas is like more enthusiastic with the Azure field, and like I hope you have seen his session earlier too. So if you are new, just check out this session and stay here. So yes, Vishwas, you can carry forward.
Yep, let's. I'm sharing my screen now, so if you can put
Yes,
it online,
your screen is
that's
visible.
awesome. So, serverless, you don't want the complexity, right? That's where the magic comes into the picture. Everything is magical and mystical here. Like, for sure there is somewhere computer down there, but now it's all about that. So it's just a brief intro that I'm giving, so don't worry about that. So that's my only digital coordinate that I would love for all of you to follow me. That's tiny.cc BNR podcast. That's where I posted hundreds of podcasts, and it's my YouTube channel. Subscribe to that, by the way. And I'm a bibliophile. I love talking to techies, so that's where the podcast started. And over a course of time, I am very passionate about image data sets. So computer vision is my field. Now exploring Azure Cloud. So I just love to go back to the frameworks before 2013 and after 2013 because a lot of times it was all about that evolution journey that we wanted. Like, hey, can we get into the entire infrastructure monitoring? Can we get that maintenance right? And after a while, companies realize that, we have good amount of money. Let's just shell out the money and let's build our own infrastructure. So what happened was every company went through a phase in which they wanted a virtual machine to be there in their system. So now afterwards, Docker came in. That's where 2013. Solomon Hikes, amazing guy. I think Docker is one of the most crucial invention that ever happened. I think there were many Unix platforms which were doing the same thing, but it's more of an automation that happened here. So, over a course of time, this is what happened. So, everybody realized that, containers are good, but, me handling a set of developers who are good in writing the code, who are good in optimizing the code, can I go back to them and use all these kind of infrastructure and start building something on that? And guess what? During that course of time, Borg and Omega evolved to Kubernetes, and Kubernetes is now there here. So today, virtual machines are a lot. So now they thought of DevOpsifying everything. Now they DevOpsified everything that they had. So they knew that everything on cloud needs to be automated. So that's where DevOps concepts came into the picture. So Azure computing services are a lot. So think about it. Azure machine learning VMs are there. So that's data science VMs. Microsoft's Azure Service Fabric. This is container instance. This is Kubernetes services. So this is what happened, right? You have different ways in which databases are going and sitting. I don't know the cloud. I don't know where is the source. I think I should have had put it in the speakers note. If not, please do DM me. I'll just put the source in the speakers section. If you
Yes,
are
I'm just
the
putting that.
yeah, sure. So a lot of times this is what happens. There are different databases. There are different ways in which the communication is happening, and this is what we needed, right? We know that there are Scrum Masters. There are repos which are written by the developers. There are Azure pipelines, Azure test plans. We need testers to have some sort of an integration. There are Azure artifacts, which artifacts come with like your containers as an image, that's an artifact. Your web app as an image. Your index.html is an artifact, by the way. So we have all these, but we wanted something cross cloud. That is where Azure Arc came into the picture. So you can interact with the amount of cross clouds. There is multi cloud providers, hybrid cloud itself. So this is what is happening. So at the end of the day, what do you think is just scale? What do you think is just the implementations out there? So, in a meanwhile, if you think about the other cloud service vendors or the providers, it's still the same thing. So, ta-da! It's still the same. So don't worry about that. So we knew that there is compute resources. We knew that there is an evolution happening. So now the only price point about this entire technology and all the stack that we're talking here is just the fact that we need to go back and realize that there is some sort of an manipulation that needs to be done in our entire infrastructure. So think about it. Think about all these infrastructure which are going through. Azure load balancers, that is what this entire article says. So Azure load balancers are layer 4 TCP and UDP protocol, all these things. So it's basically a connection with respect to the NIC. So if you see, this is what documentation says with respect to the entire architecture that we are building right now. So there are multiple VMs, there are multiple load balancers that can be connected, and these are happening in your virtual network. That means these are much more secure in terms of the fundamental rules. Like if you are preparing for CISSP, CH practical exam, I'm saying practical, not the theory ones. So in those practical exams, you are supposed to just go through a lot of subnets which can be 10.0.0.1 slash 24 slash 10 or any of these. You are basically going behind that entire network architecture that is going behind. Like you are saying that every NIC or an every IP is now behaving as a new hardware. That's what VMs are all about. So once you get back to all these, so you have domain name service. So Azure has its own DNS attached to it. Like I can give you an example of Kubernetes service. Kubernetes services, you can't put an entire name which is like 123 in one account and somebody else out there somewhere down the line, let's say Canada or something. He can't put 123 as his cluster ID or something, some annotation, because Azure Kubernetes Service has its own DNS attached with the Azure infrastructure. That belongs to Azure. So DNS is attached with Azure itself. So infrastructure as a service, so much of wasted compute power. So virtual machines were there. So in the meanwhile, it was too much of and compute which was getting used up. So there are available compute space. So we told, okay, fine. So let's just build some sort of a container. So whatever you saw as an hypervisor here, the guest OS, the libraries and the binaries, the application are now available in this form factor. So a Docker engine takes the static representation, that's your environment, that is in a form of a container image, runs on a Docker engine or a container engine and starts running it. So what happens is it just utilizes that unique amount of, like a fractional amount of the compute resources required, and now you move on with it. So here is the bookish definition of all that. So if you want, I would say go back to this talk from Amir Jan, containers for rest of us. Oh, sorry for the typo. Yeah, I think I asked him to do it twice. So you can go to this talk, can go to this talk and please go through everything that has been told here, because a lot of times I've realized that you are bound to lose some things in your entire hustle of this technology, right? You know proper how to write a Kubernetes everything, but like you don't know the internal kube API or kubectl. Like I still am figuring out what is there inside Kubernetes. Like, I'm just a child in the developer space, so don't worry about that. So, all right, this is podcast that I did. Sorry for that. So, in a meanwhile, what happened with respect to functions was functions went down and sat as a file system plus the space which is required for execution of it. You don't do everything here. Let's say a payment portal has to send data of a customer to the database. That means it just goes and sits in the database and the other processes are eliminated. That means you have too much of compute usage powers. So there is a VM, there is a lot of other resources which are coming up, and what you get is at the end of the day too much of compute space that is reusable. So in a meanwhile, think about this. It's just the evolution that is happening. So Ashika, Vagrant, Terraform, GitHub Actions, GitHub. all these are the same old commands. So think about it, because a lot of times when it's all about the evolving culture, it's just that some services are getting added, but the steps are going to still remain the same. I'm not going to do it in this way because it's too tough to handle this kind of a scenario. So we'll go on with our regular screen share right now. So I think I need to share this window. So I'll be sharing this window, and I'll be giving you a simple demo on how to create a function, test it, and I'll also be going through an API testing or a documentation tool called as Hopscotch. Amazing tool. Like, I'm learning a lot. I'm scanning a lot of APIs. Swaggers actually, and also GraphQL. There is an amazing integration as well. So if you want, you just can go out there and start learning. This is the age that you are supposed to learn. So start learning. By the way, so see the magic. Echo dot hopscotch, everything come in. But let's just go on and learn what is it all about. Functions. So before, if you want, I can just go on with this VM demo, which is container functions. This is the bastion. All right. All right. Did I? Okay, fine. That's awesome. This is container instance. So let's just go on with this demo. So in a meanwhile, let me just show you what happens behind a VM. So Azure is getting awesome day by day. So let me just show you the magic here. So you can see that Azure Functions has Azure Machine Learning. Azure Machine Learning with the present configurations. That means based on your workloads, based on everything. And as I told, the cross cloud. So the cross cloud functionality has been added. That means that you are bound to go through any of the VMs. Like, you have Oracle VM, you have IBM, you have Alibaba, you have anything, AWS, Azure, name it, you can get it. So a lot of other services as well. So think about it. So you get a ample amount of platforms. So you can switch to the classic as well, but I would say just go on with it. So I click on this VM, and now it's all about how being disconnected. So that's not a problem. So let's get it started. Why do we just worry about it? So I just go to the connect. I just connect the bastion. This bastion is the easiest and the most secure way to connect. All right, it's not fabric, it's Vishwas. Vishwas, and I connected. I think this would have gone smooth because it's saying it's not there. So this is getting connected. Wow, that's awesome. So what you have to do is very simple. So I type history. Okay, history. All right. It didn't save the commands, but you can just go to cd var slash www slash html slash. All right. All right. All right. All right. It's this way. All right. Now let's get it done. So it's slash var slash www html, and you go type ls here. You can see that there is index. Okay, I think I need to share my entire screen now. So I'll be sharing my entire screen now, so you just can go through that, please, because I need this as a demo. So you can see that, right? It's an ng and html file which is being added here. So you have the philosophy of going through the file systems, right? And guess what happened here? So I went back to this VM, and the public IP has actually changed here. Also, it's not changed. It's not changed because I have not reset it. So I can just go back, and I can still type in the same VM, and ta-da, you have nginx. So if you go back to this one and say nano index.html, you can see that it's welcome.nginx. welcome.nginx. If you see this page, nginx web service is successfully working, blah blah blah, and that's how it is. That's how this entire compute is being configured. You just have a separate entity for your entire compute, but this is very costly, by the way. And if you think of something more, there's something called as container instances. Very simple. uh, Container instances, because I'm giving you this example because I want to say in terms of the cost, in terms of what is getting offered. We'll go back to the container apps as well, we go back to the functions, but beforehand you just need some sort of an intro. So I just went in, created the same old steps, created the same old steps. It's the same old thing. You can get the registries. You can add a container registries, which is Azure managed. You don't have to manage your own Docker container in registry or something. You can work on Rocket. You can work on any of the things. So simple as that. I go back here and I press the same old IP. It's here. So the image name is very simple. It's Vishwas Narayana RE slash Vishwas. I'll just take a notepad and I'll just write it. So it's Vishwa. All right. So Vishwas Narayana Hari slash Vishwas. You just have to type in that name in the container space. You will be sorted. Okay. So Narayanan. All right. I don't want anything, bro. So this is the name of it. So just go ahead. Just start working on it. So select all. So this is the name. This is the actual registry, but this is the name of it. So just go type it. I don't want to save it. Let's just go on. So now you saw that there is a container instance which is running. That means what's happening here is very simple. Your container engine is being now taken care by Azure itself. So Azure container instance is that. So if you want to add a lot of remote aspects to it, you can go to this article. Please go through this article because you are bound to lose a lot here, because that's how cloud is. It's being configured by somebody else. When you want to learn it, just go back to an developer advocate. So I did a lot of app services. Why I explain all these is because all these are kind of managed by you. You have to build your own container. You have to secure your own container. But these are the PaaS services. Your app service is a PaaS service, platform as a service. So in which you are not configuring much of the things. You are being given that freedom to do whatever you want, but in terms of the security, in terms of the practices, you get the deployment slots, everything is being managed here. So if I click on this, I go back here, I still the same old deployment with respect to containers only. So this is the website. You can just go here and type in Vishwas Narayan12.azure website.net, and just imagine what's happening here. You are having your own IT team here. So the response time went down and the response time started peaking up. 4 milliseconds is pretty great for a container image. It's not that FP. So you can think of all these things. So it's all about that data ingress and egress, the HTTPS traffic which are increasing. And you can also went to, if you want, you can actually go with respect to the deployment instances. There are deployment slots. That means that you can do blue-green deploys. You can do any amount of deploys. So this is what blue-green deploys are all about. So DevOps is here, by the way. So now I wanted to do something on Azure Container Apps, because this is a product which comes with Dapper integration. So it's a dynamic application runtime. So let me just write a dynamic application runtime. So you can think of all these infrastructure which are pretty solid in terms of their approaches. So dynamic application runtime is basically something that which says, you know what, you don't have to manage everything on your Kubernetes, or else you don't have to think about your scale. We have that scenario inside us. We will help you in shifting to one cluster to another easily. And that's how the scaling aspect works. So very simple, click on this link. You will be migrated to the same old container that I've just written. So it's been integrated with Microsoft Bing and everything. So you guys can just check that out. If you want to check an HTTP ingress, yes, it's required because it's an HTTP traffic that is going in. So you can manually configure, or else you can just go out there and just type in the CLI, go to command prompt, do this. You can just get it done. So we'll just go on to the containers demo. We don't have to waste our time here. So, yep. I think let's just go on with the function apps. Let me just explain you this function apps in terms of a security perspective, because HSBC has embraced serverless. That means a banking firm, a fintech firm, is now embracing serverless. That means it's a blessing. And also, there are amazing use cases that you can actually look forward to. So you can go back to the samples link, which is there here, and you can just check out what is happening in the world of computers. So this is a sample link. You can go back and check out what's happening between the other things. So let's say I want to do some search operation. Search operations is here. So it's Python search and IoT Edge or IoT Hub integrated. So I say I don't want IoT Edge here. So all the code snippets are already available for you. It's just a click away from your thing, but you can start working with respect to that. So I think I'll just be doing two demos. So let me just go back to this. It's your functions. So you go back here, you click on it, create. That's a magical button. You can create your new resource RG, resource group. I'll just do that for the demo sake. We have Vishwas, Narayan, RG demo, something like that. And it's code. It's code at the end of the day. And you have the flexibility to get to know what is the runtime stack that you want, what is the version, and which region do you want it to be staying. And I think it's something as good as you go back, you configure the entire file system with respect to the regions. It's a blessing because once you know that, it's always there for you. So I choose Python. The default version is Python 3.9. So let's say you have some functionalities which are working 3.6, and let's say you don't have some functionalities which are not able to work in your 3.9. You have to evolve. That's how software engineering is all about. So consumption serverless, you can just go with the app service or the functions premium, but consumption model is good. Just go with it. So, and one more option is container. So we don't have to work on which container is it running or something. It's just a drop about the container name. So you can just go here and check that out. Review and create. It just goes back to that creation. But I don't want to waste your time here. So I've already created a cluster, not a cluster. Already created a demo for you. So it's very simple. I just go back to the overviews. This will be available as soon as it renders everything. So I would say just go back to this functions tab and click on this. Click on this functions. All right, rewrite it's getting so well. Functions tab, and you can see that I've already created one function. But now what you have to create is a function inside a function app. That function app is an entire runtime. Your functions are just going to be there for you. So it's a develop in portal. You can use any editor plus core tools. You can use VS Code, but I prefer in portal for this demo. So let's just go with this timer triggers. So I selected the timer triggers. So you can think that, there are different ways in which you can start getting it. So Kafka output, Kafka triggers, RabbitMQ triggers. The RabbitMQ is for the message queuing and everything. So you can just go out there. So you can just get a cron job here, because this is chosen to be a time trigger. Every time that you're scheduled here with respect to seconds, with respect to a time, it will just keep triggering. And you can just go here and just start working here and creating your function. Guess what? Here, it just created a function. It's an HTTP trigger. That means if you just have some sort of an HTTPS value, it just gives you that. But I'm just giving you a perspective of how this thing works. So it's just an HTTPS trigger. And you see that there is a developer portal here, and it says code and test. Integration, yes, it's an important one. Function key, this is a killer topic in terms of going back to the governance. You don't want the function keys to be there because somebody gets to know what's the function key there. It's a Bola vulnerability at one point of time. It's Bola is nothing but broken object level authorization. So hopscotch is an amazing tool. All right, I'm working. That's perfect. Why am I not able to move it out? All right, let's just remove some apps so that it works fine for us in terms of getting the hopscotch right. I think Bastion demo worked. Amazing. Container instances worked. That's amazing. Container apps also work. That's also amazing. So yes, I think this is the functions. So let's go back to this. All right. There's logging date and time that is defined for your timing triggers. But if you go back to the HTTPS trigger, it will not be there. I'll show you that as well. So let me just copy this and paste it somewhere in the notepad so that you start learning what is it all about when you're coding it. So simple. It just says my timer function timer request is equal to none. The UTC timestamp is date.time.time UTC now dot replace, and it just keeps replacing. You can probably use this in terms of like where is it going, and everything is working for you. So I'll just explain it. So time zone information, daytime, UTC, east format. Yes, if I'm in IST, it just goes for the IST as well. Let's just keep it default. Let's not due. The timer is past due. Okay, fine. If the timer is past due, and the logging info is like Python timer trigger function rand percentages. That is UTC timestamps. That means it just gives you the time zone at every given point. So you can run this entire test, and this is in body. And if you just run it, and now you can see that it says do not to accepted. It now gives me all these kind of logs. It says function has been triggered. It's 27, 12, 28 OZ information. Wow, that's cool. This is 202 ka matlab it's working at the end of the day. So don't worry about that. So every time I start running it, it just keeps on putting me a lot of logs. So see that, can go back. Okay, it's good, but like it's getting bad. That's not a problem. Code and test, sketch function apps URL, or else it's just a trigger that is happening here. So don't worry about that. You can actually do that without, but let's say you don't have it to do without it. So let me just run it again and I'll show you how many times it just get repeated. Code and test. And I just took a blank demo out of it so you guys can understand what is happening behind everything that I'm saying here. So test and run. I don't have to put any of the hotkeys, or else you can just go behind this. So viewing logs, panels are coming up. So if you want, there is host key, there's function key, you can run it. It just keeps running the functions back to back to back to back. So 401 unauthorized. That means you're not authorized to have that kind of a token. So host key, yes. I'll be 202 or 201. I forgot that. 202 accepted. So now I run it. Just see the magic here. I'm still running it. And now and again a log will be generated after some point of time. So yeah, it just started running one more thing. So after some more time, it just keeps running. With respect to all these things, though, the logs are getting created. It's not like I'm just adding something. I just run it again. The log just gets generated. So in the meanwhile, you can think about all these things which are there. So the duration is 56 milliseconds. That's what it says. Yeah, people. So that's how it is. You can go back here, you can refresh it, go back to the HTTPS function because HTTPS is configured to behave as a URL. So now you get functions URL here. So ta-da! URL is here. So you can start working on any of these URLs if you have an HTTPS trigger. So let me just explain you the authorization and everything. So I gave a function key, it didn't authorize because I'm not authorized to enter that infrastructure. So this is how it is. You can connect as much as infrastructure as you want with respect to an HTTPS trigger. Let's say you want to trigger something for an IoT event hub. You can trigger using functions, and it's very cheap, by the way. It's only cost is execution time. It's not costing for anything. So I think I'll just copy this and I'll put this in a notebook so that you guys can understand. So what's happening here is very simple. I'm just logging. Yes, I'm logging all the information. I'm saying to the main function, there is an HTTPS request that is coming in. So the functions always have this HTTPS trigger. So you need to learn about this. So learn about this. You need to learn about this before you go on with all these functions and the triggers. So let's say something is different for a queue storage, something is different for a blob storage. You need that. So name is equal to request parameters dot get the name. That means this is the parameter that I require for naming something. So name will be get. That means you're doing a post request at the end of the day. So else there is no value, it's always there. So if there is no trigger, the error code is 200. That means that it has passed, but it is not authorized to do any sort of a function. But if it's passed, the name will be appended here. So that's how it is. So func.https response, that's then file format that you're saying you just put it in a raw format here. So this is having some sort of a functionality here. It's not an entire character here. So let's just get it, test and run. Look at the beauty of it. The default host key can also be used, but here I might get an error. Yes, fire an internal server error. Just see the magic here. You are authorized, but you are not having some sort of an access here because it's a find and response and you can't hack it. And now let's say function key, you are authorized now. Oh, all right, because functions keys are not there. So the host key is always here and it gives me 202. Why? All right, let's see host keys or something. So let's do the run again. We just go back here and code and test. I'm saying you run. So another key factor is you need to keep some secrets. So if you want to show the values, this is what will come up here. So if I just download it here, just look at the magic of this. Entire thing is being configured in front of you. And you are unauthorized to some extent, but you will be authorized. That's what Pola is all about. So I think adding third-party integration is okay. So master key is there. So I think I need to add a body called as name, right? Name equal to Vishwas. So I'm now adding a body because I didn't add a body. Yes, I'll say Vishwas is not okay. So I do it with a function key. Okay, I got it now. So why it was giving me an error is because I was not having a body, and that means that you're not authorized to enter it because you don't know the values of it. But this can be predicted because DevOps is predictable at the end of it. You know the mindset of an person. Like let's say it's a banking firm. It's something like transaction ID. Everybody knows that. So in a meanwhile, let me just copy the URL from here. Let me get the function URL. And let me just show you what is this. Let's just note the four values here, ppcm and ua equal to. And now I go here and let me just get a triggered URL. So it's here. Ta-da. Why is it not coming? Function URL is not here. Oh, sorry. I had to get it somewhere. Sorry for that, folks. So inside here, there's something called as code. And PVCM and UAAA is still the same. So that means in my authorization token here, I have to add API key, and I say I'm not passing this as an header because this is a query at the end of the day. And I say code, I say the value is this. And I didn't copy it from the URL, I'm copying it from this source that I collected from the function key. That is this one. You can actually rotate the keys as well. So you can actually renew new key and that function will not start working now. So let me just copy this and paste it here. And ta-da! Let's do a proxy. And you are now authorized. And whatever you see here is the status of that API token. And now let's say I remove that code aspect. People might say this doesn't work, but it will start working. So now it's good. Now we have some sort of an authorization. So whatever you are seeing here is something like, can I really go back to this entire infrastructure and hit it and get the same old things? So the function URL has been renewed. That means from this old one, whatever you're seeing here will be changed to this new one here. So it's still the same old thing, but it's changing, right? It's minus ZZ, SAA, it doesn't work. So now I go back here and I just put this and voila, you are not unauthorized. You're not authorized to enter this infrastructure. So now I go back and change the code here and I send the query again. Look at the magic, you still have it. So now it's all about playing with respect to the body. So it's something like, hey, you want application JSON or anything, let's say parameters. So let's say name is one of the parameter and I say which was Narayan, and you get the magic of the status and it's been executed. See, simple as that. You need not have to think in terms of the security aspect. You need not have to think in terms of an coding aspect. You just need to have the right set of practices. So I think I have one more set of slides that I want to share here. That is serverless security. Okay, serverless security is this one. So in this entire talk that I gave, it was all about machine learning as well as the other one. So it was a machine learning summit. So I wanted to give something with respect to an API. So you can build an API as a model, you can build container as a model, you can build functions as a model, but the agenda of the talk was very simple. I wanted to give respect to the event driven automation. So whatever I did was exactly event driven. So if you want, there are multiple institutions, there are policy agents, there's Aqua, Trivi, Rudder, Graphies. I think I talked a lot about policy and governance, and I talk a lot. I didn't talk a lot about policy and governance here, but policy and governance is coming in form factor of a code today. So think about it. Organizations, there are plenty and many more. So benefits of automation is rapid responses, reverse automation, and efficiencies. You know, this is where API management comes into the picture. So I go back here. This is all APIs that I did, right? So let me just show you one demo of an API management that we can just talk here and things like that. So we can go back to an API. You can think of the how many APIs were being created. I used an other function which was there. It was the same old versions that was being created, right? I just test it now. Please select an operations or else a group by tags or anything. So it's all being automated. So I think Azure, what they are doing is an amazing set of rules and the practices that they're just following right now. I think you guys can just think about what is really happening with respect to the entire containers and the Kubernetes aspect. That's good, but once it comes to serverless, you need to still have some good practices out there here. So this is where it all comes up. So the last shout out is Project Lockdown. Project Lockdown really meant a lot to many of the developers actually. I think I didn't. I think it worked on the conference, but it's not working here. I don't know why. So Project Lockdown is an amazing project. So go back, check out this entire serverless security aspect which is there in the Project Lockdown, and you can get some resources here. So 100% server read only by default allows the deny list of the project flexibility. That means unauthorized will be named 4.1 and you will be notified the unauthorized logging and the low cost, and they are very quick. So think about all these aspects that you want to really cover up in this entire talk, this entire practices that you're going through. And if you want to know what is it all about running a container on a functions, it's very simple. It's just a quick start image that I gave, but it's just that one shift that you have to do with respect to our container images, and you're sorted. I think that's it, folks. That's it for today, because a lot of times you also don't want to just go through a lot of things. But fun fact, wait, I can just share you one more functionality here. You can actually export it as any way. Let's say Open API version 3, version 2, JSONs, everything can be done. And you just had an entire JSON file to be read, to be manifested, to be given out with respect to the operation it does and everything. So this is what you need. So headers are there, API key values and queries. You can just start adding them. This is an amazing tool. This is an amazing technology that you can go through. I think just start working, just start hustling. In a meanwhile, just start exploring a lot with respect to the cloud. And that's the end of the webinar, folks. A lot of times I've realized, okay, what can I teach beyond serverless functions, this and that? I wanted to put it in a security term. So that's it. Thank you so much. We'll see.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vishwash, and thank you everyone for joining us. Like, I hope you all understand, and we will be there with some more session on that. And yes, thank you so much, Vishwash, once again.
Thank you so much, everybody.
And if you have any question, you can just put in the comment section, or you can DM Vishwash on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you want.
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Don't worry about that.
He's there.
I'm very active on LinkedIn. So thank you
You
so
can
much,
just find
folks.
his name with Vishwash Nair and everywhere.
And you are into my LinkedIn profile, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so